Aries, Ashe. Obatula, Ashe. Nila Hotep, Ashe. Anu, Ashe. Ptah, Ashe. Apollo, Ashe. Da, Ashe. Zaka, Ashe. Shango, Ashe. Makali, Ashe.
Now, it's interesting because Yog-Sothoth is the one who knows where the gate is. And they say, where he is, where the gateway is, all spheres, all dimensions, and all worlds meet. Which goes back to the initial light that came on in my head the Saturday before the 4th. And I was going to the movies to see War of the Worlds. And I looked down, was in the train station, me and Linda. And I went down and got the Saturday's paper. And I noticed that Luther Vandross had died. And it was a shock to me. Because we thought he was getting well.
Right.
First thing I thought, the Spirit said, well, don't buy into this. You knew they had to take him on out.
Right. So
I was going to roll a piece of paper up and save it. And I said, well, let me see what's on the front of the paper. Because, because it's Saturday. And looked, and they had the whole breakdown of this comet. Someone had already called me about a month or 2 weeks before and talking about them sending something up to blow up the comet. But I had been hearing about these things for years. It's supposed to have blown, put a bomb in Jupiter 10 years ago or 11 years ago. We had 2 movies, Deep Impact and Armageddon, talking about blowing up a comet.
Right.
So I said, wait a minute, hold on. They're talking about I'm sending this bomb to the comet and it's going to get there on the 4th of July morning. And I said, and a light went off in my head and said, oh, when they blow that comet up, and we already knew that comets are supposed to have particles in them that was before this particular creation of this solar system. And I said, oh, when they blew up that comet, the light came on and said, oh, they're going to open up a gateway that they're not going to be able to close. Now, it's interesting here because the other movie that's very important is a movie called Life Force. Did anybody see this movie?
Nah.
It's a movie, it was originally named Vampires from Heaven, and it was written by British occultist Colin Wilson. I think it's Colin Wilson. Yeah, Colin Wilson. And it was a book that was written in the early 80s and later on renamed and turned into a movie called Life Force. And it's a movie about astronauts this particular time going up into space and going near a comet. And when they got near the comet, something happened and they brought back these entities who were these vampires from heaven. And what they did is suck the life force out of people. And as a result of sucking the life force out of people, they ascended on London. Now this is interesting because we just had a bombing in London.
Right
after the bomb that blew up the comet. So they descended on London, these vampires, and they said, oh, these are the entities in which vampires came from. These are like great old ones. And what they started doing is sucking the life force out of people and sending the stars or sending the souls up to heaven. They were evacuating the planet. They were evacuating the planet. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then we have this bombing in London. All this stuff is converging and coming together. Now this is interesting here because you got the movie about the NASA astronauts meeting up with a comet. You had 2 movies where they blew up a comet supposedly.
Right.
And then you have, but the movie is called Life Force, where it was actually the great old ones returning, taking the souls back to the higher level. And then you would have 2 things happen for real. Number one, the first thing happened here is, this is my 3rd time being in St. Louis. The first time I came was not a lecture. Just like this ended up not really being a lecture, but an experience. a witnessing of the opening. Now, I'll just break this down. The first time I came was, I got here a day before the space shuttle blew up on, I think, the 1st of February.
Yeah, something like that.
The 1st of February of 2003. Then I came back and did a lecture that was packed 2 days. And did a famous lecture, sit-down lecture called Dark Side Masterpiece. You see, first time, well, I did several lectures on the dark side, but it was the first time there was an actual sit-down lecture that was completely 100% focused on the dark side mysteries. Then I came back this time now, right after NASA blows up the comet, and we having this type of experience that's going on. You see what I'm saying? At this particular time. And as a result, from the last couple of hours, we have been seeing and witnessing an open. Now, my queen back in Atlanta was witnessing several voices talking to her at one time. So she could barely distinguish what they were saying. And she was witnessing the aspect of floating. And then we get Carla witnessing the same thing, the floating, the voices, and we were talking about here that we're talking about multidimensional, or no such thing as space and time. We're actually going through the rise of this porthole open. I'll give you an example. When I asked, well, who was the Yog-Sothoth? We knew that was the H.P. Lovecraft character from the early 20s, or the mid-20s. Who was the Yog-Sothoth? And they said it was a form of Shiva. And Shiva has multiple hands. He's known as being part of the whole universe. And both Shiva and Vishnu have several similarities, and when they mob together, they are also called Hari Hara. Now this is interesting here because it said it was a form of Shiva, but here goes again, that's another ancient name, but the modern name, or the modern manifestation, was Kakumbo, which was an entity that actually came in the spring of 2001 at the millennium, which is a Congo form of Horus, Shiva, or whatever. And it's interesting here because we have a documentary called Voodoo Secrets,
right,
where they go to Benin. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
The Shiva. You see, this thing can go on and on and on. You see. So all of a sudden now, they blow up the comet, and immediately they blow up London, which is only the bullhorn to show for them to so-called lock down the city or come inland with Homeland Security now, messing with the subways. But we know now this shit is all over. This shit is all over. We are witnessing too late, too little, too late. We are back as the great old ones. You have any questions?
Yeah. So what are we gonna? You think we're gonna witness next? Because
well, I think what Carla has been trying to say all day is that you can't really categorize chaos.
Right.
What we're going to witness is a flow of the other world pouring in. It's like water. You know, so to say what's going to come next, it's like the force. It just is.
Okay.
And ultimately this will peter out as what we call the illusionary world. One of the things we're going to be witnessing is the suppression of the annihilation of egos. So if people are stuck in this world and stuck trying to identify themselves as the beings that they think they are, other than the beings that they really are, then it's going to be some antagonistic struggle. So, but if a person just lets go, you see, and just let things happen. And I guess one of the best ways to let go and let things happen is to truly say to yourself, are you tired of living this way? And I'm not talking about living this way as far as, because sometimes this is lost, as far as oppression, as far as poverty, as far as someone dominating over you. I'm talking about just basically tired of living as humans and want to experience something greater and something on a miraculous level in which we have been using certain drugs and certain music and certain all types of things, whether it be music, religion, drugs, entertainment, certain forms of knowledge to get this type of euphoria. What we're talking about now here is wanting to live as, for the lack of a better word, God or deity or entities. You see what I'm saying? And that's what we're talking about doing. You know, any more questions?
Yeah. So with this energy pouring in and all that's happening, is there going to be any type of change in people in particular, maybe on the alchemical level?
Well, the first change is going to be on the behavioral level.
Okay.
And based on the behavior, you're going to see all kind of crazy stuff. Everything from the mundane to the monumental, from the insanity to the enlightened. You see what I'm saying? From sadness to joy. That's the first thing. Ultimately, we're going to witness not only the annihilation of the ego, but the annihilation of the physical world itself. You see, which starts with the annihilation of the ego, because what is the physical world but a projection, you understand what I'm saying,
right,
of our ego self. You see, so it's interesting. I would tell the people to avoid the rush by, number one, start with cleaning up your house physically, and then start to throw away things physically. And in doing that, you clean up spiritually, as well as letting go of not only material things, but letting go of certain thoughts you harbor that really don't mean nothing. You see, certain things we have been harboring and holding, letting go of those things, because those are the things that still keeps this ego with identifying or trying to exist as being real, which it is not. You know, so that those are some of the things that's going on. You got any more questions?
Yeah. Also, you say just becoming an entity, the things was going to happen, we become the entity in itself. And basically, I know me and you have talked in particular about the chaos theory or whatever, and things that's going on. But in reality, it's just deep, man, because every time you think you know something,
You got it figured out.
you got to figure it out.
Something new.
Here comes some more shit.
No matter how rigid the rules are, every now and then something new will change.
That's right. The fact remains is, I'm just going to some other shit. I say, we know the creation myths. You've talked about that for years. Me, myself, I've studied the myths of creation and things of that nature. And the sister in Chicago, Divana, said to me one day, well, you know, all this shit is just a great mother playing a trick. Can you sum something like that up in your own words, or what would you say to something like that?
I would say it's more of a great mother playing things out.
Okay.
When I said the question earlier, that it came up in the lecture. Well, was it the great mother, or the cosmic force? Another thing. When we say the great mother,
Right.
are we talking about one cosmic female sitting up there, or are we talking about these multiple entities? And the multiple entities, and all these entities that we look at as being separated or multiple,
Right.
do they represent the Great Mother?
Right.
And if we look at the Great Mother as one entity other than looking at it as multiple entities, we lose out.
It's like monotheism.
Right. It's like monotheism again. You see, is these multiple deities the Great Mother, both male and female, or they make up what is called the collective body,
Right.
or the collective higher council, or the force?
Right.
Is that the Great Mother? Or is we talking about a group of subordinate deities up under one female? In so many words and stuff like that, the key here is all of that is the Great Mother. And that is what the West Africans used to say when they say, Mommy water. They say, what is water? Water is everywhere.
Right.
Even when you think it's dry land, there's water even in cactuses, in the desert. Water is everywhere. So when they say mommy water and mommy water being everywhere, you see what I'm saying? Then what we call multiple deities is still a part of the mommy water. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So, so in that, and everything is everywhere and every thought is thought out, then this explosion,
Right.
it was a part of the grand plan. So when Devana says the Great Mother playing a trick, the trick is a design. So many words by him being a part of the program, as they talk about in the Matrix. Is the program when we see your boy, not Agent Smith. Was it Agent Smith? Was his name? Agent Smith in the Matrix. Wasn't he a part of the grand design too? Even when Neo got up in the room, they say these pictures, you are an enigma, but then in so many words, the architect said, we design you also.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying? So in so many words.
Is that like the story?
Go ahead.
Is that like the story of like Zeus and Prometheus? Like Zeus has his part in the creation, but has Prometheus as an architect, and Prometheus give the humans more of substance to be able to overthrow Zeus. Exactly.
It's part of the grand plan, but isn't it interesting here that there's an enigma? You have Zeus and you have his other brother called Hades, which is the underworld. But Hades, and there's a book called Greek Religion. It's a red book called Greek Religion. I think Barnes and Noble sell it in the history section. And when we talk about the Greek thing, because we're still talking about Etruscan, Minoan, and black culture. So listen, we're not getting this twisted. We could call it raw or whatever if you want to talk about it in Kemet. But in that particular book, I point that out to understand the paradigm of where it was coming. Hades is called the chthonic Zeus. So you have the Olympian Zeus, which is the demiurge and the ruler of this world. Then you have what is called a chthonic Zeus, which is Hades. So the two brothers are actually two aspects of the same half, two essence, battling for supremacy. You see, even Osiris and Set were brothers. You see, in one mythology. And I think we have to look at this in this particular aspect. There's a book, as a chapter I'm getting ready to producing a little book I'm going to put out. It's a little chapter that I'm getting ready to produce. And we give this to the people. And they talk about what will happen to Adalabroth. And Adalabroth, they're talking about is this cosmic abortion. It jumped ship and tore out its mother's side. They call it Ogu in Dogon. Came down to Earth and created a botched job and a simulated type of reality other than the original heaven, and trapped souls down here to be captive in this assimilation. And then the Great Mother had to send her essence through the souls down here, her essence through what is called a soul, to clean it up from the inside out. And so they asked the question, well, what will happen to this Zeus, Adalabra, Yahweh, even Legba in other mythologies? Get Mauger's book, the Good and Evil in Yoruba Belief, or something like that. what will happen to this particular demiurge of the ones who hold the souls in captive in this illusionary prism of what we call the matrix, or what we call the real world, which is actually an illusionary world. What will happen to those archons or architects of that deception? And in this particular Gnostic text that they finally put together and tried to understand more things on this Adalabroth cat, was they say, oh, his energy is going to be used as a fabric to build a new world. About like the great mother who was overthrown as Tiamat's energy was used to build this world.
Shit.
The Adalabroth of this particular Zeus character, or this demiurge character, his energy will be used to build a new world. They said that he and Ogun, and that, so I don't want to get into this enemy, good and evil. We're just talking about moralism. The previous cycles of rulership. That same energy will be used as a gateway to build a new world.
Wow.
So the first thing happened in 2002 is we had an entity called Labado came up, and it was a form of the Great Mother. In Yoruba they call it Olokun. In Voodoo they call it La Sarine. La Sarine. In Samaria they call it Melusine. In Greek they call it Echidna. In some forms of Babylon and Samaria they also call it Oreskagul. In Christianity they call it Leviathan. In Egypt they call it Apep. You see what I'm saying? It's the great dragon energy, or the great mother energy that was overthrown. And in so many words, it became a part of the sea, or up under the sea, so we could even say that Mami Wata was a part of that.
Okay.
And so this particular entity rose up as Labado. Now I know exactly, because I don't forget things. And when the sister Kimberly down in Atlanta said Labado, at first it was a male. And then about a year later, she said, well, you got that wrong, it was female. Well, we know we can't be arguing on this male and female thing, but it was interesting that it came male and it came female and it was talking about the same essence. But this Labado character, when he came through in June of he came in May of 2002, but by the time I heard from him again in June of 2002, I asked him what was going to happen to the ruling warriors who supported this particular matrix. And at that particular time, we were in battle, a family fight with Ogun.
Okay.
And I asked what would happen to Ogun. They said, well, his energy will be used again to make the new world. So ultimately, that cosmic joke, or that thing they're talking about, is still all playing out, and these are just characters to actually build something new. You couldn't have nothing new if you didn't have an antagonistic element. Hold on 1 minute.
All right.
So it's almost like the thing of that Hercules character, the Horus character, Hercules character going through his labors, and at the end of his labors he got his reward, which was the golden apples. Robert Anton Wilson calls it breast in a book called Ishtar Rising. So the ultimate aspect of the reward is your species have. Now it's interesting here. I was talking to a sister named Ia who was a voodoo priest, a voodoo priestess. If you want, I guess that'll be the right word. And she was saying that, is this bottle in the way?
Nah.
You can't see it. It's
top of it, that's cool.
She was saying that well, ain't nothing in this world that's so profound. What is in this world that is so great? And I'm like, you're right. I say, after you get it, you find out that it's just only a series of illusions. I say, but down here on earth, as far as my experience, I only found one thing, to me, is the greatest thing, period, of anything that I can measure, or anything I can grasp, or anything, any type of acquisition of some type of wealth or materialism. None of that is as great as one thing I have found in my experience down here. And she said, well, what in the hell could that be? I said, woman, a woman, women.
Mm-hmm.
You see, singular or plural.
That's right.
Woman.
Make no bones about it.
You see what I'm saying? You see. You know. And I know we governed by so many laws and so many taboos in this country and in this world and in these societies. But it might be something too why you got a lot of women turning to a lot of women in the time of this upheaval. Mm-hmm. Somebody might call it the breakdown of society. But then again, on the other hand, and maybe this was a man talking, you know. If I was a woman, I'd be a lesbian because I love women. But maybe that's a man talking. But on the other hand, that is just the man talking, because I think all men are repulsive, ugly, and hideous. So maybe a woman is saying that the greatest gift that she could think of would be a man. And I would say that the man is even a greater gift in the experience of women, because, when I say that, I'm talking about the prototype, the black man, because he is the hardest thing to find. You see what I'm saying? I mean, we can say, even in the most trivial situations, or even in the most degrading situations, that a sister's a dime a dozen. But then that means we have to look for what type of sister, and that is the quest.
Right.
But as far as the availability of women compared to the availability of men, a black man is literally a diamond in the rough. You see what I'm saying? Or at least one that's sane. You see what I'm saying? You know, when I was up in New York in '99, at first it was like, the sister was like, do you have a job? Or no, do you have money? Then it was like, no. Then next it was, do you have a job? No. Okay, we might be able to deal with that. Do you have a car? No. Well, we might be able to do with that. And then it got to the point where it got so desperate until they were saying, are you sane? That was the litmus test. The criteria was, you ain't crazy, are you? You see what I'm saying? That's how bad it had gotten.
God damn.
You see what I'm saying? And all. So we could work with all the rest of the shit. But, so my point here is, but I think that, I don't know where this is coming from. I guess it's just, you know. But I think that that's the greatest gift. So when they told you today, and ironic that I would tell the sister that one day, about 2 years ago, and ironically, when the great old ones and they came back, they told you that your gift, and we don't want to diminish it in the aspect of saying that she's some type of object. They were saying your gift, though, your reward, and they're saying that this is the greatest reward a person can get, is the queen, your queen, for your labors. And so, in so many words, I think that when Robert Anton Wilson in his book Ishtar Rising, and you can read the mythology of Hercules going through all these labors, and at the end of his labors, he get these 2 golden apples. Well, they call it the golden fleece skin when Jason goes, but Hercules get the 2 golden apples, and Robert Anton Wilson equates it with breasts. So in so many words, in his book Ishtar Rising, the breast got to be attached to a woman, and I think that was the ultimate prize. You see, it was the ultimate prize. And we can also say, along with Jason, when he gets the golden fleece, the goat, and here's another mystery. He goes to the end of the earth to get a golden fleece. But he also, when he goes to Caucasus, he meets up with Medea, a woman, and not only a woman, a high priest of Hecate, the moon goddess. So not only was she a woman, she was a woman If we equate these myths as being myths of us living in this present day, then she not only was a woman, but she was a woman that has some degree of consciousness. You see what I'm saying? It's the same thing with my queen. It's not enough to have a woman that's just a pretty face, but it has to have a woman that is made up of a degree of consciousness. Now, the consciousness that we're talking about here is not necessarily whether she's adept in all aspects of the arts and sciences of the occult, but whether they have this overwhelming hunger to learn, an overwhelming hunger to know. That's the word. To know. Because learning, I don't want to put it as we the great teachers, because the only thing I'm saying here is it's the same thing with me. It's not the overwhelming hunger to teach, it's the overwhelming hunger to know. That's the key. And so what has happened is I haven't spoken in Atlanta in a year. Will be a year, well, about 8 months. And that's my home. And I have spoken in New York twice this year, in Chicago 3 times. I'm just trying to say I'm going several places to speak. But they say a king is without honor in his own home. And I used to speak every month, and it came every other month. But when the people got to a certain level of consciousness, they said, why are you not doing a lecture? I said, I don't have nothing to talk about. They said, you can go back over some of the old stuff. I said, but you already know the old stuff. And are you coming to this lecture because you just want to be entertained and you want some regurgitation just to say, let's go do something? So this is like a club. You want to go out again or see another play or see damn Frankie Beverly and Mays do the same damn songs they've been doing for fucking 20 years.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? I say, so it's the same thing. Let's go take in Bobby Hemmitt. And I was like, look, I don't have nothing to say. And what I was saying was I only talk based on if I have some certain research. So basically, somebody said, well, what you going to be talking about in the next couple of weeks? I say, whatever comes down the pipe is these breakthroughs, I like to call them. And that's what we should always be looking for, the breakthroughs, other than looking for to show off on how entertaining we can be based on whatever knowledge we used to have.
Right. And
if knowledge is like chaos and like water, if you're always in pursuit of it.
Right.
So we should never master that which is the past and be content with that past. And somebody was saying especially, oh man, you don't sound like you did in the 90s and stuff like that. I say, well, I done covered all that. You see what I'm saying? So I'm only looking for the new stuff. And they said, well, the 90s was a little more technical, a little more fun. I said, no, it's just like anything else. Sometimes the simple is the most sublime. And that's what they used to tell me in the 90s. The Spirit said, always look for the simple. It's the most sublime. There was a brother named Juju used to sit on the stoops and smoke cigarettes in the spirit world. And he used to say things that sounded crazy or it sounded so minute. And to this day, I'm still figuring out shit this man said 10 years ago. And at the time, it was so simple. You see what I'm saying? It was so simple, but so profound, until it's never a month go by, years. I'm like, damn, Juju said that 10 years ago. So you can get that type of thing. That's how we're supposed to pursue this particular thing. But our sincerity is our credentials, and not necessarily being rewarded for just trying to sound good or whatever. It's not about the performance. It's about, are we giving breakthroughs? Is this particular stuff amounting to something?
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying?